Just waiting to go live, and then I'm going to start to tell you about how my approach to healing body shame differs from traditional therapy. Okay, so I'm live. Today I want to talk about an upcoming program that I have to offer you if you've been struggling with body shame, insecurities, and obsession for a while. I struggle with those problems for decades, and I know that it can really feel like it's something that you can't get over. And I think there are a lot of messages where that gets reinforced that it's almost impossible and it's just something that you have to live with. And I'm living proof that that's not true. And I feel really passionately about sharing that message because it's been one of the most wonderful things that's happened to me to let go of that problem. So today I want to talk about my group coaching program that I have coming up. I want to tell you how it differs from traditional therapy. And I've come up with 14 ways that I think it differs. So if you've had traditional therapy and you haven't found that it helped you, you might want to consider this. Um, I'm not saying that traditional therapy isn't wonderful. I've drawn so much benefit from that in my life, and I know millions of people all over the world do. But just for transparency, I want to share about how my perspective and approach may differ. And of course, there will be overlaps as well. Okay, so here are the 14 ways. So the first one is quite a big one, is that I will share my personal experience in the program with you. I should just clarify probably to start off with, it's a group coaching program that's going to run for 4 weeks from the 22nd of April to the 17th of May. And enrollment is open now. So yes, I will share my personal experience, and that's quite different from a therapist who normally tries not to do that. Whenever I've had a problem in my life, I've always liked to find people who've had that problem but who don't have that problem anymore, because it's just helped me to, it kind of gives them credibility for me that they understand what I'm going through. And it gives me hope because I feel like, well, if they've got over it, then so can I. Um, and I think it's kind of crazy not to draw on my personal experience. So I did volunteer for a while, well, for many years actually, with the Samaritans, and we weren't allowed to do that. We weren't allowed to talk about ourselves at all. I love the Samaritans. I think it's an amazing service, and I think that that makes so much sense in that context, and I understand it. But I did feel limited at times that I couldn't share because I thought what I had to share might be really helpful. And so that's partly why I decided to go down the route of coaching rather than traditional therapy, because I want to throw everything I've got to offer, all my experience and my personal stories and everything, because I think they can be powerful. So that is the first difference, a major difference between what I do and traditional therapy. The second one about this program is that it's a group. Now, you can have group therapy, obviously, but lots of people typically have one-to-one therapy. And I think that there's real power in being part of a group. So I've been part of a community for the past 3 years. It's kind of shut down and isn't quite running in the same way now. It wasn't to do with body image. It was to do with mental health in general. And it's just been, it was just absolutely amazing to have that experience, to just be accepted. And when I was younger as well, I found that so helpful when I went to 12-step meetings for my eating problems, just to not feel alone. And a lot of us are in like Facebook groups, but we don't actually talk to each other. And this group coaching program will get in a room together on Zoom, and we can get to know each other and share successes and what we're struggling with. And I just think that can really make the difference when other things haven't worked. The other thing is that breaking away from the beauty standards does take courage, and it does require independent thinking, and having solidarity and support of a group can make all the difference with that. Okay, the third difference is that I think I've got a more radical view on this issue than most people I come across. So a lot of people, when they think about body dysmorphia, they often sort of say they often say that it's about imagining. So let's say you look in the mirror, you've lost loads of weight, but you still see like a fat person, and that's sort of what they say the issue is. Or most people would say your face is normal, but you don't think it looks normal. So there's an idea that there is such a thing as flaws, and maybe your perception isn't quite right. But I've got a completely different view about beauty. So I don't think that there is such a thing as flaws. I don't think that exists. I think that's just brainwashing, conditioning. And so because I've got a much more radical view, I think that means I've got a lot deeper freedom. And I've had such a huge transformation as a result of that. And if you're interested in hearing more about that, I talk a lot about that in a free talk that I did on Saturday, which you can get on my website, mariamorgan.info/free-talk. You should see the tab there. I talk about that for like an hour. So yeah, it's more radical, I would say. The next difference I would say is that my approach isn't about looking at behaviors. So a lot of people will say, I obsessively take selfies. What should I do about that? And then the therapeutic approach might be looking at ways that you can try not to do that. And it's really focusing on behaviors. Or with eating disorders, it's like, you don't eat enough. Okay, let's make a plan for how you can eat more. And there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes that can be helpful. And maybe that will occur to me as what part of what we talk about in the program. But looking at the thinking is not a sustainable solution. Sorry, not the looking at the thinking, looking at the behaviors is not a sustainable solution. That's very, very superficial, and it's not looking at where it's really coming from. And so I want to go deeper than that with you to have a more seismic kind of transformation rather than just trying to tackle behaviors at that level, because that's kind of depressing and just hard work. So the next difference is that it's not just about the thoughts, because a lot of therapy will talk about your thinking and will hold your thinking up to the light and get you to question it and look at it and challenge it. And that will also definitely be part of what we do in the program. But I'm also going to go deeper than that to look at the nature of thought itself, because that's what's been a game changer for me. Because for years I was trying to fight the thoughts and it just didn't work. So I want us to explore who you are beyond those habitual thoughts and see if you can have a different relationship with them. So you become less afraid of them, less afraid of your thoughts. You buy into them less afraid of your feelings. And that is what changes the whole of life, or it has for me anyway. Because the truth is that what we're really looking for is beyond these habitual thoughts, but it is inside of us, which is great news. But it's very, very difficult to see that because we spend our lives just focusing on our own thoughts. And so my program is kind of, it has a more of a, you could say, a spiritual component, where we look at who we are beyond our cognitive activity. And that is transformational. And it's not something I'm just going to be telling you about. It's something that I will encourage you to try to explore for yourself. So you don't have to take anything on faith. You can see for yourself. Okay. I'm on number 6 now. Number 6 is that I'm not focused on diagnoses. Good job, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not qualified to diagnose anyone. But I also think it can be very unhelpful when people focus on diagnoses, because they can just feel like there's something wrong with them. I don't think there's something fundamentally wrong with you if you don't like the way you look and you feel insecure about that. I don't, even if your brain is wired differently, I think that can change. I think our brain wiring, and obviously I'm not a neuroscientist, but I think it responds to where we place our attention and how enmeshed we get with these thoughts. So I won't be focusing on diagnoses in the program at all. Obviously, we can have discussions around that. And I'm not saying there aren't benefits to having a shorthand for a generalized description of symptoms that flow from insecure thought about how we look. But, you know, how you understand this problem will determine what you do about it and what you don't do about it. And if you think there's something fundamentally wrong with you, you're going to have a different approach from if you see it as an issue with how you relate to your thinking. So the next one, number 7, is I don't think the suffering comes from perception. I think it comes from judgment. And this is a bit like what I was saying before. So let's say somebody loses loads of weight. They look in the mirror and they say, but I still see a fat person. That's not where the suffering is coming from, an incorrect perception, in my view. And people get really hung up on this. They're like, oh, well, everybody else tells me I look okay, so why can't I see it? And they just go round and round and round in circles, because that's not really the source of the suffering, I don't think. I think the source of the suffering is to judge any physical appearance. Because if you don't think being fat is wrong, or scrawny, or whatever, a bent nose or whatever, you won't fear it and you won't be worried about what people think, because you'll know there's nothing wrong with that. And that if other people think that, that's just to do with their brainwashing. That's their conditioning, and it doesn't have to be your problem. Next one is number 8. A lot of people will say, okay, so the answer is not to care about looks. Looks aren't important. And I don't agree with that. I think looks are a wonderful gift. I enjoy looking at people. It's just that, so it's not that I feel like I have to give up on something. And, you know, looks are for other people to enjoy, but I can't enjoy that because I don't conform to the standards, the beauty standards. I think looks are a great joy. They are a feast for our senses. When you see someone you love, it's a wonderful experience, like seeing a sunset or a rainbow. My daughter's really into rainbows. Rainbows are amazing, aren't they? Never get over that. So it's not about that. We can still have that joy. There is no sacrifice in healing. You still get to enjoy what people look like. And you enjoy it so much more without judgment, without the conditions. You can just appreciate what is. Okay, number 9. So loads of people who struggle with body dysmorphia or worry about what they look like, feel down about what they look like, they feel like the solution And what would make them happy is to look in the mirror and think they look really good and think they look beautiful. And that could be part of it. That may well be part of it. But I can tell you right now that I do not spend time doing that. I don't look in the mirror most of the time and think, wow, I look amazing. And I'm really, really happy. And I think that getting hung up on that can really act as a barrier to healing and happiness, because you're expecting this wonderful reaction when you look in the mirror, and you don't need that. You can happiness doesn't come from feeling like you conform with standards, which and that sometimes we might get a little bit of a lift from that, but it's not the kind of deep enduring happiness that makes life feel really good most of the time. So we can explore that. You don't have to be sold on that, right? This program will be an exploration to see that happiness can be so much less conditional than you think. So focusing on this wanting to feel beautiful can be a real distraction if you want to heal. Okay, number 10. This is just a practical one. So this program, there is going to be more support. So typically with therapy, you might speak to someone once a week or once every couple of weeks. But this is going to be 4 weeks, going to be a bit more intense than that. So there'll be a group coaching session where we'll get together on Zoom once a week. But I'll also go live in our private Facebook group every week and take all your questions there. And then there'll also be the Facebook group to you can post in there whenever you want, and I'll be in there every day doing my best to support you. So I think that actually can make quite a big difference, because I know sometimes if I'm really struggling with something, these long, or what feels like a long gap of a whole week before I can bring something, just didn't feel that helpful. And sometimes you really want help a bit closer to the time, a bit more in real time. Now, I can't promise it will be immediate because we might be in different time zones, but it's certainly going to be every day. So that's just a practical thing that I think that kind of support can help people a lot. Okay. Number 11, the way that I might differ from more traditional approaches is I think full and complete healing is possible, so that this issue, no matter how long it's plagued you, you can heal from it and you can put it behind you. Now, I'm not going to promise that that's going to happen within the 4 weeks, but I fully believe that can happen because of how I understand the nature of the problem. I don't believe there's something fundamentally wrong with you. I think it's about how the thoughts we have and how we relate to those thoughts. And everybody has the ability as a human being to have their awareness of how their experience is coming to them via their thinking go up. And when that awareness increases in the moment, you have a different experience and things can start to shift. And your relationship with those thoughts changes. And when that relationship changes, they don't have the same hold over you. And then your life changes. Number 12 is I don't think recovery and healing are hard work. And this can be quite controversial because a lot of people who've really struggled like to say, I worked really hard. And that's kind of good and bad. If they feel good about it, that's great. So I don't want to take that away from anyone, but it can be off-putting. If you think you've got to climb a mountain to heal, you don't. It's often about relaxing more and slowing down, which I have not been doing during this talk. It's in those spaces between your thoughts that the healing happens. Like when you work out, it's when you sleep that the muscles kind of get repaired and built up stronger. But it does take courage. It does take humility, and that can feel hard. So I don't want to say it always feels easy, but I just feel like hard work isn't an accurate description for growing pains. Because when you heal, however much, it always makes life easier. Even if there's tough things about it, it's always moving in a positive direction. So it takes courage, it takes humility, but it also takes curiosity. I spoke about that in the talk as well. And curiosity is light, it's relaxed, it's not about effort. And that's where we really make the gains. Okay, number 13. How is my program going to be different from traditional therapy? So this is more how I see it might be different from what people talk about conventionally. So people will talk about the beauty standards, eating disorders, body dysmorphia, and they'll talk about it as a terrible thing. And it is. I do agree with that. I think it's scandalous and ridiculous that so many people, and I would say possibly billions, it's a very high proportion of people, don't like their bodies. They're ashamed of their bodies. They apologize for their bodies. They don't want to go out because of the way they look. This has to stop. It's just ridiculous. So I totally agree with that. And the fact that we're all giving ourselves eating disorders, all kinds of problems, resorting to plastic surgery, having ourselves cut open, health risks of that because of all this toxic thinking about how we're meant to look. So I totally agree that that is awful. But at the same time, I feel like most human beings have challenges, and that those challenges are also always opportunities to learn and grow. And that is why we're here. Well, I don't know really why we're here. That's above my pay grade. But I feel like what is fulfilling, like that gives life a sense of meaning, is to learn and grow and to learn more about what love is, what it looks like in different contexts. And we're each given different challenges, because often people can be full of self-pity when they have these problems, and it's understandable because it is miserable. But most people have things that make them miserable, and it's part of the journey. And when we accept that invitation to see what this can teach us, it can turn into the best thing that's ever happened to you. Now, if you're really struggling and your life is massively impaired and limited by this, I know that might sound quite annoying, but I just can't pretend that this healing and transformation hasn't been the most wonderful thing that's ever happened to me. And it's given me so much hope about other things that I struggle with, because before I had this transformation, I didn't know that that kind of change was possible. And now I understand a little bit more about how that change happens. I feel like it makes it more likely for it to happen in other areas. And that's so exciting. Healing is really exciting. And the final one, the 14th way that my program is going to be different from traditional therapy, is that there's not really going to be any homework or tasks. You're not going to have to fill in, like if you do cognitive behavioral therapy, you might have to, I don't know, I was given like these worksheets to fill in, trying to challenge the thoughts, things like that. This program isn't about doing. Having said that, I will encourage you to engage as much as you can, as much as time allows. It's more going to be about reflecting, which is hopefully more restful than doing homework. listening, reflecting, and engaging. So asking any questions you have, but kind of to take the pressure off yourself from trying to figure things out, because that's why I'm doing the program to help you with that. So hopefully it will be fun. So that's my 14 ways that it differs done. I'm now just going to go over the details of the program itself. So it's going to be 4 weeks. It's going to start on Monday, the 22nd of April. It's going to end on Friday, the 17th of May. We'll have a private Facebook group running the whole time. So each week I'll start off by issuing a video with a theme for that week, so to keep us kind of focused on the structure and the process that we're going to go through together. And then you'll be able to reflect upon that, ask any questions in the group. Then there will be a live question and answer session in the Facebook group once a week. I'll go live. So it will be just in our private group. So you'll be able to be completely open about any questions that you have, and we can go through everything then. But if you can't make that live, you can submit your questions or reflections in advance, and I'll speak to them at the time, and then you can watch it afterwards. The main thing that it would be ideal that you turned up live for, if you could, is the group coaching sessions on Zoom. So my plan for those is that you will have one-to-one time, but in a group setting on those. And obviously it would be wonderful if you could be there. If you can't be there, you can submit your questions in advance and I'll do my best to speak to them. But what I'm going to do is, once people have signed up, I'm going to ask them, each person, about their availability. And so I'm going to do my best. It might be difficult depending on time zones, but to try and schedule those sessions where most people will be able to attend live. So I'm going to base that around the availability of the people who choose to participate. And there's going to be one of those each week. So there'll be 4 in total. And then in between sessions, we'll have the Facebook group. So you'll be able to share in there anytime, day or night. And I'll be in there regularly to support you. So I'm trying to organise it in such a way that it will be able to fit in with your lifestyle and it won't require huge time commitment. It's basically, you should be able to listen to most things at your own convenience, and just have that one hub during the week, that one time where we'll be able to get together and talk in Zoom face to face. Just a quick point on that: if you feel like you can't appear on screen, that's fine. I'm not going to force you to do that. You can come along with your camera off. That's fine. Obviously, over time, it would be great to encourage you to switch it on, but I wouldn't want you not to do the program just because of that. It's more important to get involved. Yeah, so that's it. There is an early bird discount that ends on the 28th of March, which is next Thursday. So the program is currently costing £200. After that discount ends, it will go up to £250, and enrolment will close on the 14th of April. So if you think you'd like to do it, I would encourage you to try and sign up before the early bird discount, because you might as well get that. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment on Facebook, send me a direct message. I'm also happy to have a chat. And you can find out more by going to my website, mariamorgan.info/beautiful-you. That's the name of the program. And you can read all about it there, and you can enroll now. So I'd love to have you with me. If you've been struggling for a long time, please consider getting help. It can make it so much easier. Okay, and I'll leave it there for today. Lots of love. Bye now.